All right, everybody, welcome back into this edition of Unidentified History. I am your host, the lawyer Dave Unger, coming to you here today to talk more UAPs and all that kind of fun stuff. We've got another very interesting event to talk about here today, a different sort of event, but it does kind of tie into the last episode of Unidentified History. But before we get into all that, let me welcome back into this show my two partners in crime who could not be here for the interview with James Iandoli, unfortunately, but that doesn't stop them from showing up here tonight. So I want to introduce these guys in and welcome them back to the show. First off, the man who seems to be trying to challenge DJ for the best beard in podcasting, or at least he's thinking about it.
Not at all.
It is the one and only man of all things chair shot related, the one and only PC Tunney. Tunney, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Glad to be back here on Identified History. Great interview you had. You didn't really need us for that, Dave. We would have just kind of gotten in the way. But I don't think if you look at DJ here and you look at myself, there's no challenging. I'm just a little experimentation here. You know, no big deal.
It's a pretender to the throne, exactly.
Yeah, well, what the hell?
But, giving credit where it's due, giving props to the man himself. The man with the greatest beard in all of podcasting is back here this week, the one and only DJ. Deej, how you doing, brother? It's been a while since we had you on Unidentified History.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple weeks. I won't get into it too deep on here. I had hernia surgery about a week and a half ago. You can hear about that on my podcast, on the Mindless Wrestling podcast. Slowly recovering. I'm excited to be back here with my boys, talk some UAP and get into this thing.
Yeah, you've had quite the week of recovery. There wasn't even aliens. They didn't do it. It was just your local normal doctors who decided, hey, we got to take some stuff out. Got to take some stuff out.
Oh, they planted some stuff in.
Ooh, all right. I wonder if it's alien tech that they put in there. I don't know, man. I don't know. Following up on just kind of to touch bases on the interview with James Iandoli, I assume you guys got to watch or listen to most or all of it or something like that.
I have not, I'll be honest. I have not had a chance yet.
I'm going to have to spank you now. So, no,
that's not exactly giving me incentive.
Yeah, what the hell? I didn't watch it either.
No, you listen to some of it, I'm sure. So, I know. Again, I want to give James a huge thank you for coming on the show and spending a couple hours with me. And I would say the feedback I've gotten for the episode has been really good. I would say that as far as anybody who listened to James, and if you're kind of new to the whole topic and the whole area of consciousness and are still interested in that,
I usually say that the UFO phenomenon is like a bridge between physics and metaphysics, because it demonstrates both our old paradigm and a new paradigm simultaneously. Because here you have allegedly, right, a physical object that can be tracked on radar. It's on the gun camera footage. They're observing nuclear facilities. And there's biological effects. So it's, as far as we can tell, a physical object, just as I'm a physical being, and the house and the rocks and grass, whatever, cars, jets, there's a physical object present during these phenomena that occur that, again, people can track them on radar and capture them on gun camera footage. However, they're demonstrating what we would consider something that's metaphysical, right? They're disappearing and reappearing.
I would certainly say to check out James's YouTube channel, Engaging the Phenomenon. It's got a lot of additional information, especially if you do want to go and kind of participate in CE5 and go down that path about human initiated contact. And you heard what James talked about, and you said, wow, that would be really kind of cool to be able to initiate contact with some sort of extraterrestrial, whatever the phenomenon is. By all means, check out his channel, because I asked him some stuff after the episode behind the scenes, and he directed me to a few videos that are very helpful. And I would certainly say, go check that stuff out. There's a lot of information about CE5 out there. Dr. Stephen Greer, who we talked about a little bit, obviously a very controversial figure in ufology and UAP studies and that sort of thing. But that's not really related to his work with CE5, which is he really kind of, like James was saying, he kind of revolutionized the concept, or he didn't invent it, but he sure brought it to the mainstream and streamlined it, at least to a certain extent. And his protocols, they work, and they're good protocols. And, it'll teach you stuff about meditating. It'll teach you stuff about tonal, binaural tones and sort of things like that. And yeah, for all of Dr. Greer's faults, of which there are arguably many, that area of the CE5 stuff is not one of those places. So I would urge anybody to there's a lot of information on the internet. Some of it's better than others, for sure. But if the consciousness side of things is what you're interested in, then by all means go check out James's channel, Engaging the Phenomenon. Go look up stuff from Dr. Stephen Greer. I would say exercise a little bit of caution on that end, just because, you don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole, because Greer's got some pretty far out there sort of opinions on a few things. But anyway, that's all I really want to say. Again, a big, huge thank you to James for coming on the show. He was a tremendous guest. Hopefully we'll get him back on in the near future. Beyond that, though, kind of just wrapping things up as to where things are that we didn't really get a chance to talk too much to James about on the episode, but I want to talk to you guys. 3i Atlas still heading this way, guys. DJ, your hope for an alien invasion still kind of sort of on the table. Looks like this is a comet.
Do we have to call it an alien show? Do we have?
No, alien. No, we don't.
Okay. We can use invasion.
Peace has been in the Middle East now for at least a few hours. Okay. So
somebody else got in trouble using invasion the other week, so I wasn't sure.
No, I think we're good. I think we're clear. Man, you only get in trouble if you're running a wrestling promotion.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I mentioned that the last episode of Attitude of Aggression, where we did the Big Five project. I mentioned that should tell you how global an entity WWE has become. That, because they're going to call an event, an NXT event, no less, Invasion, Israel just gets all pissed off about it. It's strange days we're living in, but we're not here to talk wrestling tonight. 3i Atlas still heading this way. You got some interesting pictures this week. None of them are probably real, or they were time lapse, time exposure, things to make this comet look more like a cylinder than it actually is. But again, there are a lot of people. Avi Loeb is still kind of suggesting that this thing's abnormal. Beatrice Villarreal, who's done a lot of the work on the transient objects in the sky in the 50s, and her work is very solid and very scientifically based. She's kind of come to Avi's defense a little bit. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out soon enough what this damn thing is. I don't think we're going to be lucky enough to have this be anything other than a very prosaic, well, I don't know about prosaic, but just kind of an explainable object going through the solar system. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? DJ, you're the one pulling for this thing to be an alien invasion more than anybody. So
I am. You guys know I'm team I want to believe, and this was one of those instances where I really wanted this to be something more than a comet. When you're reading all the early ideals, and people are saying this is not characteristics, didn't have characteristics that were typical of comets until it got closer and we got a better look at it. And they're like, okay, yeah, it does have a tail, it does have this, it does have that, it has outpouring of gases and things like that are all very much comet-like, but then people were talking about the mass and the shape and the trajectory and the way that the tail was, ejecting out from the comic. So there are always these different explanations. So it gave you hope that this might have been something more than just an anomaly and just a block of ice hurtling through, the cosmos. But I think at this point, we've got enough conclusive evidence to say it is a comet. Disappointing, but still something really, really cool to keep an eye on in the skies.
Sure. I mean, that's the thing is no one really knows exactly for sure. Well, I mean, it's getting closer. It's supposed to get as close to the Earth as it's going to get in December. Now, if this thing slows down and changes course or does some weird stuff, then you can start getting a little bit worried about it. But, Tony, what do you think? I mean, it seems pretty evident what it is. It's not definitive. It is cool to observe. And I like the fact that, we didn't send satellites to intercept it or anything, but we did reprogram. It looks like reprogram some of the stuff that's out around Mars to really take a closer look at this thing, which I thought was cool. Hey, yeah, man, this is a very rare opportunity. Let's train some eyes. Let's train some equipment. We got all this stuff out there. Let's at least take a look at it. So, if nothing else, they should get some really good data off of this, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think time will reveal itself here on this to be maybe a type of natural occurring event that we haven't been able to observe so closely. But like, it does give you hope, though, if that's what you want to actually find a space to have a connection at some point, right? Like, that's kind of what, in the innocent sense of it, it's like, man, if there's other beings than us, why wouldn't we want to connect with them? Why wouldn't we want to know what else is out there in a peaceful way, right? It's kind of like the expansion of people around the globe, and there's really barely any corners that have been unsearched, especially on land. Now, if we go into the ocean, we've talked about that here
Right.
before too, right? But it's been very enjoyable and encouraging to follow, I think, right? It's been a lot of positive things. You can really get into the skepticism of the made up things and the time lapses and et cetera, right? But it's been fun. I can't wait till it gets closer and we have more of our own technology here that we can do it without having to do the stuff that's already been put out there.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
more just disappointed that this isn't going to come close enough to see with the naked eye, because when Halley's Comet came back around the last time, I missed it. I don't remember. It was in the 80s. I know that much. I don't remember exactly what the date was, but it was supposed to be visible for like a week or two, and I completely missed it. And then what was the last one that came through? The Hale-Bopp comet?
Hale-Bopp, yeah.
Hale-Bopp, I believe I missed that one too.
Wasn't there another galaxy visible this past week? I seen it.
And Andromeda was
Yeah,
yes,
you look
visible.
from where I was, it was north and slightly to the east. I just saw like a collection of stars that I figured probably was it. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
I think like if you were in some of the really, the spaces of the world where the Milky Way is most visible, like Yosemite National Park or places like out in Australia, out in the Australian desert, where you can really see like the galactic rift and the Milky Way. I forget the name of the desert in Australia, but that's one of those places where it's amazing. The stargazing is just off the charts. But yeah,
the less human light surrounding you, right? It's like here
Sure,
in the
sure.
state of Wisconsin. I'm from the Milwaukee area, right? And
Yeah.
can't really see shit. But go
Right.
up to the north woods of Wisconsin where there's not a
Yeah.
lot going on. I've done it plenty of times, and it's just a world of difference. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, you get 20, 30 miles outside of the main metropolitan area. Like here in Bakersfield, it's like, well, go up in the mountains or go out towards the coast a little bit, because even the coastal cities aren't putting out that much light, that sort of thing. So yeah, but Andromeda was visible. I saw a few pictures of it. That's remarkable that a galaxy that it's still so far, 4.5 light years or something like that away from us. I don't
Yeah.
know what it is, or maybe it's more, but
It's our closest celestial neighbor, though, isn't it?
from a galaxy standpoint, yeah, I think
Yeah.
what Alpha Centauri or Betelgeuse or what, one of the stars is like 4 light years away from us, but I don't know how far Andromeda is. Oh, that was once, yeah.
Careful.
I'll offset it by saying Goldberg. I'll say Goldberg next, honey, just to balance it out. Yeah, it's cool stuff. I mean, I'm like you, DJ. I want to see like when this thing gets closer to the Earth and they really start training the full, the James Webb can get all this stuff, or Hubble, or any of the other stuff that they have out there. I think we're going to get some spectacular images of this thing. And like you're saying, you get a better understanding. It's only the third one of these interstellar objects that have ever come through. So yeah, I mean, whatever it is, even if it's just completely just a comet that comes from outside the solar system, it is still doing some abnormal things that maybe, okay, well, we know that from our solar system, the comets do this, but this one is doing this. So maybe there's something out beyond the solar system that is affecting things differently, making it composed differently that we need. So I think it's from a scientific standpoint, it's all fascinating. Whether there's anything to it from the unidentified anomalous UAP side of things, probably not. but we'll find out. Other things that are going on, man, the saga with the whistleblowers continues to get interesting. Like, and I don't know if you guys caught this or not. So one of the witnesses at the hearing, we talked about the hearing. It was me and Tony and Rob last time. So at the last UAP hearing back on September 9th, one of the witnesses was Dylan Borland. And Dylan came on and did a two-part interview on Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp's podcast, Weaponized, which I'm not going to do a full breakdown of it because listen to just about any of the other podcasts out there. They're all doing it. And I don't blame them for that because there's a lot to unpack. But I think the main things I took away from Dylan are, and it ties in with that. And I sent DJ and Tony, I sent you guys another video because Jeremy Corbell yesterday just released another video of a new whistleblower who didn't testify at the hearing. And I can't remember his name. I got to look it up, but I'll do that as we're going along here. It's interesting that, I mean, aside from Dylan just being mercilessly harassed and subjected to some egregious behavior for coming forward, there's a lot of shit going on with security clearance. His brake lines were cut. So people are trying to kill him. He's been subjected to all sorts of shit. And through it all, and you could tell just by watching Dylan and looking at his body language and the stuff he says in the interview. I've been around enough psychiatric sort of claims in what I do in my area of the law, which is a lot of medical and psychiatric stuff. So I'm no doctor, but I know what PTSD looks like when I see it. And he's got signs and symptoms of that sort of thing. So, I listen to the stuff that's been done to him and it's just terrible. But I think like the big thing I was taking away from what he said, and I got to get the name of the guy, Dan, I think was the guy who Jeremy just interviewed. I forget his last name, but they're talking about Dylan's testimony is that, he goes, he's working at Langley in I think like 2013 or 2012. And he's going out for a smoke and he sees this white light come up from behind the NASA hangar that's over there at Langley. He doesn't think anything of it at first. And he just kind of like walks towards it. And then the next thing you know, this thing zips over to him. And above him, 100 feet over his head, is a 100-foot long equilateral triangle with lights in each of the, the points of the triangle. Obviously, triangle is, three points. This is grade school geometry, guys. So we're just keeping it real here. Triangle, 3 sides.
So equilateral, equilateral means each side is the same. If it was isosceles, then it would just be 2 of the 3 sides.
That's right. This is your geometry lesson brought to you courtesy of Unidentified History today.
Math nerds.
Yeah, like you're saying, math nerd. Mathletes? No.
I was a mathlete in high school. I have a bronze calculator.
Yeah, you and
honestly.
Rob will go back and forth all the time.
We do.
But he sees this thing and it's got these lights in each of the points of the triangle and then one big white light in the middle of this thing. And it's just hovering there silently. And this thing takes off and, at rapid speed, no sound, no report, nothing breaks. This thing clearly took off at a speed that would break the sound barrier. So you say, well, there's got to be a sonic boom. Nope. It's kind of like we talk about the USOs and stuff, like we talked about the ghost rockets last time, Tony, right? These things that are flying into lakes, no splash, nothing like that. It's like, okay. So the laws of physics are getting screwed over. Then this guy that Jeremy talks to, he's over at Elgin Air Force Base in Florida, your neck of the woods, Deej, and well, not strictly your neck of the woods, but in your state. Yeah. And he's kind of like watching this, and it's like something about people going out for a smoke. Maybe the aliens have got a thing for tobacco, or I don't know what's going on, but this guy goes out for a smoke as well. And he noticed all this military stuff going on across, a clearing from him. And it's the same sort of craft that he sees, this giant triangular thing with the lights in the corners and the one in the middle. And he says this thing just took off at a speed that he'd never seen before with no sonic boom, no report. It flew off, it came back. And it took off again, then it came back. And it did this like 3 or 4 times. And it's just like, and like Dylan said that when it first happened, he thought this has to be our tech, United States tech, right? And as it's gone along now, he says, well, I don't think it's ours anymore. Now, he hasn't elaborated on that, nor do I think he can due to his security clearance issues and that sort of thing. He probably hasn't been cleared to get into all that. This other guy, he doesn't make any sort of definitive statement one way or the other, but it was clear that listening to Jeremy talk to him and him and George talking at the end, that they think this is our tech. which raises some really interesting questions that I wanted to pose to you guys. And we talked about this last time, Tony, when it was me, you, and Rob. Um, like the one congressman, Perry, had asked the questions about, and I keep coming back to this. It's like, if this is our stuff, why are we testing this stuff where it can be seen by everybody? It can be seen by anybody on the base, any is it a civilian walking around could see it, any military personnel. If this is ours, why aren't we being more secretive about this? Is it just arrogance? Is it just our own hubris? It's like, oh, we've gotten away with it for 80 years. Fuck it.
I mean, these are humans, right? Okay, that explains it all. A person
They just don't.
can be smart. People
Are stupid.
Yeah.
I think for me, I would question whether it's our tech or tech that we have acquired.
Yeah,
We'll leave
it's
it there.
Great question.
Why are we doing this in the open either way? Because if we're reverse engineering tech that we've acquired, we don't want the rest of the world knowing that either. You don't overplay your hand militarily.
Well, you don't know who's walking around out there either. I mean,
Exactly.
they could have a spy, an agent, or someone who kind of knows, hey, they're testing it here. I'm going to take all the notes and take all the video. Like, why would you risk that?
Right. Either way, whether it's our tech or, so like I said, something that we have reverse engineered.
Sure.
You know what's funny? Do we want to make sure like we create an alliance with the aliens before, like, say, what if they land in North Korea and they take a real liking to Kim Jong-un, and then we're kind
To
of
the North
fucked, right?
Koreans?
It's like, oh
Yeah.
shit, you guys got all the shit for all this time, and now I got the alien force behind me. I mean, like,
Well-
it's interesting to think about that. And then that's kind of the thing. I'm like, man, if something like this happens, this is more of a reason for everybody in the world to come together.
You're exactly right. And James talked about this when one of the things we did talk about on that episode was that the UAPDA has failed for the third consecutive year. So there is nothing in the NDAA about the UAPDA or anything involving disclosure, which Matt Laszlo, who's asked a poll UAPs, the only journalist in Washington who's actually covering the UAP issue, put out something today that I thought was cute. Government shut down, but that didn't stop them from passing the NDAA, because you got to keep those military fat cats, got to keep them happy, Deej. Got to keep them happy, And I found that strikingly humorous that the rest of the government can't do a fucking thing. But this, which is mandatory to fund the military and the Defense Department, we got to pass that. I mean, I get it, but the hypocrisy is pretty heavy.
How many days are we on shutdown? How many days have they
10.
shut down right
Like
now?
7
10?
or 8, or I don't
What's
know.
the-
I think
Yeah,
records. I think it's on day 10 now, I think.
Record's 30, I think, back in like 90.
Well, they're too upset
Four?
that Trump didn't. They're too upset that Trump didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize for bringing the war in Israel and Gaza to. I'm like,
Let me
okay.
ask you guys a question. What exactly has fallen apart in the last 10 days since the government stopped working?
Nothing.
Nothing. Why don't they take the rest of the year off? Maybe even next 3 fucking years.
Well,
We got
I mean,
it. We got it.
there are grants and there's programs and things that are going to be impacted if this goes on. I get it, but no, you're right. The basic infrastructure of the country is not crumbled into oblivion because the government shouldn't shut down. I mean, it's. But anyway, getting back to the UAPDA and that sort of thing. And one of the things we talked about on the interview with James is the concept of catastrophic disclosure. And I think I've talked to you guys about this before, that whistleblowers like Dylan and this other guy who've come out and told their stories about, I'll circle back to the tech in a moment because I do want to touch on what DJ said. But the idea that, is there a whistleblower out there who's like an Edward Snowden, somebody who could get their hands on that quantity of information and just dump that on the world to just blow the whole lid wide open? And James's response I thought was really good, because it's like, it's probably not even going to be a person, but an adversarial country. And like you guys are saying, let's say North Korea is the one who comes out and says, guess what? We've got all this shit and we don't care what the United States says. We're telling the world about this thing. Don't they suddenly become, and how ironic would that be if a country like North Korea or China, who we have spent how many decades telling our own people they're the scourge of Satan, communism, evil, 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 evil. And these guys come out and they say, here's what we have. We're not alone. We have a relationship with these entities who are trying to help us further X, Y, and Z. don't they suddenly become like James was saying, they suddenly jump to the forefront as the leaders of the free fucking world, even if they're a communistic state, by saying, here, world, look at what we've done, look at what we've got. We're telling you the truth. We're not hiding this shit from you. We're telling you the truth. Would that be catastrophic? Not from a worldview. Certainly in the United States, people would be like, what the fuck? Why is China telling the world about this stuff? Why are they the ones leading the way here? Wouldn't be a good look for us, I don't think. Tony, what do you think?
Well, that's the point I was saying before, I mean,
Right.
there's what, basically, I'm not even Putin and Zelensky would fuck it up, so I'm not worried about it. But China and North Korea, capable, controllers, right? I mean, especially China. China's got us by the balls. We owe them so much money, but it doesn't even matter anymore. Like the debt clock and all that shit, it doesn't even fucking matter anymore. Does it really?
Sure.
Like the
No.
US is too big to fail. It's a lot of like the government bailouts with huge corporations in America. But yeah, it's scary to think about. You got to think though that another form of life that was much more capable than us got here, has much more advanced tech, would be smart enough to maybe figure out who they should align with if they decided to align at all. Because in all honesty, if they have it, they're in charge. Whether or not they're using China or North Korea or USA as a puppet, they're in charge.
And all this stuff could be moot if they're the ones who decide, all right, we've tried to work with you guys and we've observed this stuff for the last 70, 80 years, and you guys are all fucked. So we're just going to come out and say, here we are. You guys do with it what you want. We're here for your resources and your women. Oh, okay. Wow. That's getting a little out there, but no.
Where are all the white women at? What? Who said that?
Yeah. But I mean, it does, whoever the country that, I mean, there are a lot of reasons why, especially, you could see why there's an agreement between countries to not do it right now because, hey, we don't think that the world can handle it. We think it's going to have this detrimental impact on religion and blah, blah, so forth and so on. But I think you're right, Tony. And I think James is right. If this thing is going to get blown open, it is probably not going to come from the United States. It may, in fact, I mean, although we're probably regarded as the world leader in researching this stuff, which doesn't mean anything, the chances of this catastrophic sort of event coming where disclosure just is hoisted on the world, probably going to come from one of these other nations. Deej, what do you think?
You got to think from our standpoint, that would be problematic because whoever, is the one who basically bestows this information on the world is essentially the liaison to these other entities. And that puts you at the forefront as the global leader. And if the United States knows anything, certainly they don't want that to be the case.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a good look for us. And then because then the questions really start getting asked, right? It's like, well, how long have you guys known about it? If China's known about it and they're coming out, how long have you guys known about it?
It
Well,
erodes
probably
public
19
confidence in its own government.
even bigger.
Yes and no.
Not only
Yes and no. Think about it though. Like the government can come out and say we're scared to let people know for the hysteria factor, right? Like we agreed on a lot of different things that the government shouldn't like let people
Connie,
know if that's the case.
You don't think there would be mass hysteria in the United States if China or North Korea came out and said, hey, by the way, we're friends with the aliens? This place would fucking go bananas.
No, I understand, but I'm saying there are scenarios in that place where I think China could really give a shit. They already have control of their people. They're going to do what the fuck they're told, right? We're not controlled nation. I mean, think about it.
Well, like to DJ's point, I mean, that's almost more disturbing than the existence of this in the first place, right? I mean, it's like, because most people think it exists on some form or fashion anyway. But if you get to this point where not only does it exist, but one of our biggest adversaries is buddy-buddy with them, it's like, who are you going into war games with? Okay, China just pulled the tribal chief out of their back pocket. Who do I have? I got James Ellsworth. Fuck! That's not going to work so well, sort of thing. So maybe that's a little extreme. I can see Tony looking at me like, that's a bit extreme, Dave.
If that's the case, we're really going to take it on the chin.
Literally,
nice work.
Until we have no more chin. That's good stuff, Tony. Very well done, sir. It's fascinating to figure out, where's this going to come from? Where's the next shoe going to drop? Because it just seems like the more they try to fight this and close off all the loopholes as far as where this information can come from, there's something else opening up. But like getting back to what you guys were saying about the tech involved and that sort of thing, did we create this stuff on our own ingenuity or did we reverse engineer it? Personally, I think we reverse engineered it. We've cracked the code. We figured out how to do something. Because I think we've talked about this before. I don't think that if we did this on our own, if we figured out anti-gravity all on our own with no help from an alien race or anything like that, you think that the person or persons who did that wouldn't have squawked by now and bragged about it? Because you know how humble and restrained human beings are, right? We have no ego at all. I think it's kind of ridiculous to assume or to just kind of go down this proposition. Oh yeah, we did this all on our own, and yeah, we've been able to keep it quiet for all these years. Whereas if they had reverse engineered it from an alien craft, it's like, and even then you're like, well, if they figured out how to reverse engineer this stuff, somebody would be bragging about that too. But I think it's more likely that we got something, they've cracked the code on it. They're testing these things out. Obviously, if you've got a big military contingent who are following you around and watching this stuff, then obviously the military is testing that stuff out. It still doesn't explain a lot of stuff. Like, how are these things able to bank at 90 degrees at forces that would liquefy the average person? I'm still not sure we've got answers to that sort of thing. But nonetheless, I mean, Tony, I'll go to you first. If you had to put money on the line, you think that we did this all on our own, or did we get this from somebody else?
Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. I want to say one way and then I think another way, right? Like you would probably reverse engineered it. I would have to go with that. Like the biggest factor for me leaning that way is, like you said, if there's someone who did this, at the very least we'd know about it, right? Like, think about the water engine and how that went away, but we at least know about it because someone actually invented it. This, no one's come forward.
Right. And I understand there's pressure not to come forward, probably from the transportation industry, aviation industry, oil companies, people relying on fossil fuels because this moots them and makes them obsolete. But still, people are not good at keeping secrets. You're talking about the biggest secret in the history of the world. To me, it's like whether it's alien or whether we've just got this amazing tech, it still doesn't solve the core root of the problem, which is like there's some amazing stuff that's out there that could change the world for the better that is being hidden from humanity for whatever reason. Deej, what do you think? Reverse engineered, or is it
I'm
all
with
us?
Tunney here. This is kind of a tough call because I do believe in the power of human ingenuity. Like, I look back historically at the things that we have done, not only from a technological standpoint throughout history, but also just to take an architectural standpoint. You look back at, the ancient Egyptians and the Romans, and they were coming up with just aqueducts and very complex things 3,000 years ago. And then there was a lull in that human ingenuity and that learning, and you got to wonder why there was a drop off and where that ingenuity started to pick back up. And you look at all the things that we've invented. Unfortunately, atomic weaponry, splitting the atom, the weapons of mass destruction, but also, the internet and everything that's come out of that. And as we advance forward into AI and things. So I believe in the power of human ingenuity, but do I believe we have mentally the capacity to break our own laws of physics? No, I would probably lean on the side of we're reverse engineering something from somewhere, something that we have found. We've figured out how it works, but I think we lack the capacity to have done it ourselves.
Go back to your point. All this great ingenuity that we had 3,000 years ago, and then there was this big drop off, right?
Right.
Who's to say we didn't have help doing that? Because we've talked about the pyramids before, and whether that was assisted by another alien technology or something NHI. Because we all have our doubts about the pyramids. Go ahead, Tony.
No, you bring up the fact, though, before about the moves that some of these things are making, that no human could actually be in this and survive. So speaking of reverse engineering, maybe we just figured out some type of robotic mechanism that we can remote control use, and it's an unmanned, you know, thing that we're controlling from the ground, possibly. It's the only sense I
It's
could make
got,
if we're talking about moves like that, right? Unless
yeah,
we figured out that how they engineered the inside of that to make something like us be capable of it, right? Because think about it, like we're going to get to it here in this episode, like visits from human-esque beings, right? So like
right.
how much different are they than us too?
Right. And I think like you're saying, it's likely that these are unmanned vehicles unless they have figured out some sort of space-time bubble. And this is in Lou Elizondo's book, and whatever you want to think about Lou is up to you, that sort of thing. But in the book Imminent, it's a whole chapter they talk about the tech involved and how these craft are creating like a space-time bubble. That as long as a craft is in the bubble, things like those of us outside the bubble are perceiving things at a much faster speed, a much different speed, a different kind of sort of space-time relationship. But inside the bubble, it's kind of like just us sitting here right now. It's like everything going on outside is totally different. But for us in here, if you're inside the bubble, it's no different than just like, walking to the restroom or the kitchen or the refrigerator or something like that. It's maybe,
And that's how you
maybe it's something
turn
like that.
4.5 light years into 45 minutes.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. When space and time don't matter, then 4 million years, 4 million seconds. I mean,
What's that, Dave? We're
I
playing
don't,
we're playing Pebble at 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. Okay, I'll leave my house at like
let's go.
I'll leave my
Let's
house at like
go.
10 after 8.
That's right. We're playing six-dimensional chess here. Deej, you got any thoughts on this?
I was just going to kick it back to what we were talking about, like the rise and fall of technology in human history and the drop off. There are paintings and hieroglyphs and carvings and stone etchings that suggest that we have been visited thousands of years in the past. And,
Yes.
we need to consider that when we have these discussions that, because a lot of what we cover here historically, we go back to World War II and forward, because that seems, at least in our recorded history, where these things seem to start. And we've speculated on this show that it seemed to escalate with the rise of the atomic age. But there
Right.
is evidence to support that our ancestors, thousands of years ago, in the cradle
Yeah.
of civilization, were visited by someone, and those someones helped them advance technologically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Great.
I picked the Battle of Los Angeles as a easy entry point because it made sense, because business, as JR would say, business picked up from there.
Right.
And as we're about to go into like 1947, business really picks up. But at the same time, like you're saying, there's beings depicted in pictographs and hieroglyphics and things all over the world. It's not just Egypt, it's down in Peru. It's in, Central America, South America, China, Russia, all over the world. There are depictions of these beings that go back thousands, millennia almost, right?
And
Go
important
ahead,
to
Dee.
note that they're depicted in civilizations that were completely cut off from each other. So it's not like they
Yes.
could communicate and say, hey, we saw this. Why don't you guys, this, so it's not like you could copy and paste somebody's homework here.
Right. And a big topic of conversation lately is, the hardcore religious people who seem to be the ones pushing back hardest against disclosure and all this because they're concerned it's demonic. And like I think James and I talked about it, I've talked about it with my wife personally, and I just like, how do we know? I mean, the Bible is not like God sat there and wrote the fucking words down. Sorry, God. But it's a man's interpretation. People interpreted what the word of God was. What if they interpreted it wrong? What if what they saw, that they said, my brain, my primitive monkey brain here is telling me this is something angelic, it's an angel, it's a demon. What if it's just a UFO? What, some sort of alien kind of, I don't know, that sort of thing. They could have very well interpreted like this. You'd hear about chariots of the gods and stuff like that, then coming down flaming chariots. Doesn't that sound like the typical UFO?
We're going to get into it later on in this episode, an incident where they interpret their dreams a certain way. And I think this is all going to tie into that larger discussion, Dave. When we talk about something like the Bible, is this something that was again, brought to the earlier humans. And again, through their interpretation, they dreamt this, and in this dream, God, whatever that entity or being may be, spoke to them. And
Well,
2,000 years
there's
later, we have a written scripture that we call the Bible. And
we can
there
go
are
There you
past
go.
24 different religious versions of that scripture, regardless of what your religion is.
we can go past just dreams, because the prophet Elijah and Elisha were written about to never have died. And the Lord came down, God came down and took them with him up to heaven. Like, if that isn't the most
That's symbolism, buddy.
relatable thing to an alien abduction in the Bible, I don't know what else is.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it was. I'm not saying one thing or another, but that's what's in the
Yeah.
Bible.
We are
And
going to
this is
have
what
the
we're
Vatican
talking
on
about.
our asses now.
The Pope's from
Well,
Chicago.
they know.
Don't worry, the Brewers are
They
going to
know-
kick their
they-
ass tomorrow.
But no, the Vatican knows. Like, if you listen to Diana Pasulka, she's talked about being in the library of the Vatican, and there's a lot of stuff about NHI in the Vatican. So they know what's going on. You know, they're not going to come out and strictly say, yeah, they're here. But there's a lot of stuff in the libraries and the bowels of the Vatican that would probably blow most people away if they knew what the hell's down there. So listen to her. Also, Deej, I would implore you, man, listen to the part of the interview with James where we talk about the interconnectedness of all this stuff, because
Absolutely.
we get into the whole aspect, and we've talked about it here on the show about how it's all connected. You know, he's like James was like, even though it's all connected, it may not be the same thing. You know, that sort of thing, and that's very true. You know, we could have these different phenomena that are all occupying the same space and kind of doing the same sorts of things, but being very distinct from each other. So, you know, is there this realm of heaven and hell and earth? Is that any different than dimensionality? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But it's all fascinating stuff, to be sure. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens moving forward with this stuff. But guys, that's. I just kind of wanted to touch base with you on a few of the current topics of conversation. Anything else you guys have heard that you want to talk about before we move into an interesting history case?
I think the Denmark coming out about the
Oh
about
shit!
the drones.
Well, yeah, the drones.
I
Yeah,
think
we didn't
that
talk about the drones.
Yeah, we haven't. I think that happened in between our last episode.
Yeah, I mean, good luck figuring out what the hell is going on.
Like,
over
they're
in
talking about
Scandinavia.
saying that it's like someone's trying to make it seem like it's the U.S. or Russia, and trying to, like, you know, someone's trying to pit more angst against, you know, two nations that don't already, you know, have enough angst to go around for the whole world.
Oh, I mean, you're talking about, I mean, Scandinavia, which ironically we're sticking in this region on the unidentified history aspect of this episode anyway. And
Great
we talked about
transition.
it the last episode. We talked about it in the Ghost Rockets on the last episode, which ties into all this stuff. So you're up here in the Scandinavia region where most of these countries are neutral. Switzerland doesn't get more neutral than that, but you've got Sweden, Denmark, Norway, you got places like Copenhagen, airports being shut down due to heavy drone activity. No one knows what the fuck is going on. Some of the videos coming out of there look very strange. I know Billy, over one of the guys, I forget what Billy Krasik or something like that. He's got a site that does a lot of visual sort of enhancement. He's taken some really interesting pictures of some of the drones that, fuck, some of them look like Klingon birds of prey. Like, what the shit is going on in the skies over Scandinavia? Don't know. I mean, and of course, you know, the debunkers who are out there who, you know, they love seagulls, and they talk about everything being a plane or a balloon, and we all know who they are. And they're saying, oh, these are all planes or misidentification. Some of them probably are, for sure. But you don't you don't shut down major airports in Europe because there's excess plane activity in the skies. Otherwise, LAX, LaGuardia, O'Hare, any of those airports would shut down all the damn time. So what it tells me is they're not in control of their own airspace, or the control of their own airspace. Something is out there. Russia is the easy scapegoat. Sure. The Russians are like, it's not us. Now, of course, Putin is not exactly known as the bastion of virtue and honesty, but still.
Putin on the Ritz there.
Yeah, Putin on the Ritz. But you got to take it with a grain of salt that he's saying it's not us. Um, China's probably not throwing a bunch of drones in the European theater of war, because I mean, unless they really are trying to start World War III, which I just don't see they're having a big motivation to do that over there. And China's more involved with surveillance and spying than they are active military engagement. So yeah, it raises the question: who is behind the drones? Because the one thing we know is they're not being tracked. They can't be tracked. They're not being shot down. Can't be shot down. They don't know where they're coming from. They don't know where they're landing. These things are just evading all the anti-drone technology. We talk. It's very reminiscent from the stuff going on in Jersey at the end of last year. That, of course, Trump in his first few days of office said, "Oh, it was all FAA research drones." Really? Why does the FAA say no? It wasn't. So I don't know. What do you guys
The
think? I mean,
greatest
there's
FAA
a lot.
research drones ever. Great drones.
Yeah,
Flew spectacularly.
spectacularly.
Wow.
That's right. Yeah, I know that was Tony's getting good at that. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think of this thing? I mean, a lot of people want to say it's the NHI, that they're mimicking something that, I've seen a couple people talk about, the video that Deej, we didn't get a chance to talk to you about it. The video of the hearing with the Hellfire missile deflecting off something or not. It may have
I
shot
saw
right
the
through a
video.
balloon. Yeah, you saw the video. So there's a
Yeah, I didn't
lot
get a
of
chance to talk about it, but I
dispute.
saw it.
It's a lot of dispute over what it was. And
Yeah.
that's still not definitive as to what it was, whether this thing deflected off of an actual UAP, whether it just fired through something, a soft target, which is kind of what I think it was, or something in between. I don't know. But it's interesting, though, that you show this video of something that happened at the end of last year. And then, is this the NHI kind of responding? Say, oh, you guys want to shoot on us? Well, here you go. But then this would have coincided with the drone wave in Jersey at the end of last year, where they're kind of like putting on a show, a display, and now you've got another one of these things going on here. So I don't know. I don't know. You guys got any thoughts on what the hell these things are? Because I really don't know. I don't think they're NHI. I don't think they're alien. But as to which country is responsible for doing this stuff and which one has developed drone technology that's this advanced, and I agree some of it is misidentification, but not all of it. And certainly, I don't buy this shit for a second. These are planes, because people operating an airport know what fucking planes look like. So stop with that nonsense. Go ahead. Rant over.
Not a clue. Not a clue. I just know it was very interesting to see an actual
It is.
government come out and be like, this is what happened.
Yep.
We don't know what the fuck's going on. Basically coming out and saying, hey, anybody out there got any fucking answers? Let us know, because we got none.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it? It was Denmark or Norway? The prime minister did that, or
Denmark. I remember that just because
Yeah.
I am a little bit Danish.
But you're absolutely right to have a leader of a nation come out and say, we don't know what the fuck this is. If that doesn't get your attention, then you're not paying attention. That's all I can say when you've got a world leader. Granted, Denmark is not a nuclear superpower or anything like that. They're not going to be, they would have trouble invading fucking Jersey if they tried to invade Jersey. But still, it's a world leader coming out and saying, we don't know what's going on here. Yeah, I agree with you, Tony. That's remarkable. Deej, what are your thoughts on that?
This is where I think human ingenuity can succeed. If I had to make a guess, I would say this could very well just be amateur people building drones and, flying these things on their own. This could very well just be the civilian populace
In
doing
those
this on their
numbers?
own. Huh?
What if there's
But in those numbers,
what about like rogue ex-military-ish kind of an idea? Like, this is very movie-esque, but like a secret militia society that flies under the radar, has been involved with the technology, is able to resource and, obtain enough to come up with something like this and evade because they know enough.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
very
kind of
definite
where my head is
possibility.
at with it.
Like, you think about like rogue ex-military like that, put themselves together, figure it out how they can sell their services to the wrong people, right?
and I'm not saying you're wrong, Deej. I'm just saying that it's a lot of drones out there. That, and I get what you're saying, but that's a lot of numbers for a hobbyist to put out there of stuff that is that advanced. Boy, that's a lot of money too, wouldn't it?
Rogue militia.
Somebody well funded. Elon, that's where he's been lately. He's hanging
boy.
out, and he's like, it's a
But
new version of Starlink.
no, you know what? It's just goofy and stupid and pointless enough to be Zuckerberg. It's like, oh, I gotta get on it. Oh,
You know what, man? I can't say you're wrong, Tony. I really can't say you're wrong. It could be that or it could be that time traveling bastard Tony Khan. Maybe this is how he's getting back at everybody. So no comment. No
Nothing.
comment. Remember, we're on video, Tony. We're on video now. So
yeah. Well, I mean,
all right. Well, let's get into the unidentified history part of this episode, because we've got, and like Tony's saying, this is a good segue because we're in this part of the world anyway. So let's stay in this part of the world. Last episode, or not last episode, the episode before the interview with James, me and Tony and Rob talked about the ghost rockets, which are a mysterious wave of mostly cigar-shaped UFOs all around Scandinavia at the tail end, at the beginning of like 46, I believe, is when this thing started. And, we had a lot of events of these things crashing into lakes. Like Tony and I were talking earlier, no splashes, lake bed disturbed, no debris ever found. This goes on for months. No conventional explanation. Maybe the Russians or the Soviets at that time, were testing some captured Nazi tech, V-1 rockets, V-2 rockets. Sure, possibly. Who knows? But anyway, so we move into this case that we're looking at. I've titled it The Curious Case of Gösta Carlsson. And for those of you who are like, who? Like that meme from Guardians of the Galaxy, who?
or you get the Homer Simpson. I have no idea who that is.
And I don't blame anybody for that. So let's kind of go into this, because this is a interesting case that does have potentially some tie-ins to the ghost rocket situation that we talked a couple episodes ago. And so Gösta Carlsson, born in 1918 in Sweden, one point worked for the Swedish Railway. Then he quit, started his own ventures. In 1953, he founded the company Cernel, I think is how you pronounce it, later associated with Allergen. I don't know. This
Allergan.
produced a lot.
Allergan.
Allergan. Okay.
Oh, whatever.
You-
Big
well, that's
beard,
right.
big
DJ's in
brain,
the
I
health
guess.
He's
I'm
in the health
26 years in
industry.
ophthalmology. I'm very familiar with Allergan.
That's
the
why
company.
I figured. That's what I figured.
That's
why I didn't have to.
appreciate that.
It's why I didn't have to look up whether or not you spelled umbilical correctly.
So he starts these companies. They produce health-related natural products, particularly notably derived from bee pollen. And the business, he gets extremely wealthy from doing this. He becomes one of the most wealthy businessmen in all of Sweden, gains public prominence, invests in sports teams, so forth and so on. So you're like saying, okay, Dave, that's great. What the hell does this have to do with UAPs? Funny you should ask, because we're about to get into that. So what Gösta Carlsson says is that his claim is that on May 18th, 1946, he's walking home from, and I'm going to fuck this pronunciation up, Kronoskagen Forest. I think that almost sounded right. This is near Ängelholm, from the beach at Skardvlecken. I can't, whatever. One of
That
these
was better
beaches
than your
in Sweden.
attempt at Allergan.
It was. So anyway, some beach in Sweden where he's walking home from, he notices a bright light, so he follows it into a clearing. He says that he sees a dish-shaped craft resting on a keel or a fin.
Skalderviken.
Skalderviken?
Skalderviken.
You know what? That looks right. Skalderviken. I'm glad Tony is here with the Danish and Swedish pronunciations. That was really good too.
I was
I'm
like
impressed.
efforting real hard to get back into there so I could look at that and be like, I think I know how to pronounce that.
Skardleviken. Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
Anyway.
You got it once.
Yeah,
It'll never happen again.
So he sees this disc-shaped craft. If it was a dick-shaped craft, that'd be a problem. Wang, pay attention. Willie, it looks like a giant Johnson. No, it's a disc-shaped craft.
Nice beaver.
So anyway, he sees this thing. It's got retractable legs, and he reports seeing humanoid-like figures. They appear to be working on the craft, or maybe they're repairing it. One of the beings actually interacts with him with like a device described like a bellows camera, which I'm not sure what that is. And they kind of wave this device at him to say, stay where you're at. Now, if I was him, I'd be like, yes, sir, or ma'am, or whatever the hell you are. I'll stay right here. It departs. Carlsson goes, he returns to the site. He measures impressions or gouges in the ground. These are reportedly 50 feet in diameter, shallow, depressed. He attributes this to the craft's footprint. Carlsson also says he collected some quartz fragments from the site. These were all turned into people to have them analyze the quartz fragments. They came back as being, this is just typical regular quartz. Thank you for sharing this with us. So that's not really a whole lot. But, and this is the part, like, where James was talking about the lucid dream that he had about the fireball in the sky that then came true the next day. Carlsson says he has a series of dreams in which the pilot, or somebody he assumed to be the pilot of this craft, communicated knowledge to him, including formulations for natural remedies. And he then says that he used these ideas to come up with the pollen-based products that launched him into all this business success. Now, he doesn't talk about any of this until decades later in the 1970s. When I heard that, the immediate thing that jumped to my mind was Trinity. And we talked about Trinity a few episodes ago, where the two guys kept their mouths shut for decades. Didn't talk about it until 2003, many decades later. Carlson's kind of in the same sort of boat in this thing, isn't he? Because he's like, he doesn't say anything about it till the 70s. But then he says, when he does say, it's different than what you got in Trinity, which is talking about a crash site. He's saying, yeah, all these great ideas I got for bee pollen and allergen, like DJ's saying, I got this from a dream involving UAPs and non-human entities. Like, that's fascinating. So, and he goes beyond that. So, he says this in 1970. In September of 72, he then constructs this monument, the Engelholm UFO Memorial, in the forest where he claims this thing came down. Now, you can see the picture, and I'll put it in the video as we get. I'll insert it in here somewhere. But, you can see the picture of this thing, and it is in the clearing. Tunney's showing it on the camera, exactly. I will be inserting a scene in here because Riverside rules the world, and so I'll be able to do something with that. Yes. It's like the Sid Justice of podcasting. It rules the world. We're live, pal. But anyway, so he makes this UFO memorial in this clearing.
I'm sorry. I gotta do this. Because I'm half the man you are, and you're smarter than me, or something like that. Oh man, that was horrible.
I'm half the man that you are, and I have half the brain that you do.
There you go.
Yes. We're live, pal. Can I do that again? We're live, pal.
Sydney
Anyway.
Udy.
Yeah, we got a 1/8 scale concrete model of the UFO based on his sketches and design. Concrete circles around the model intended to mark and represent the original landing impressions. They put up these copper plaques mounted on pillars that are at the edge of the clearing. And it's all in, I think, in Danish probably is the language that it's in. And the site's now a heritage site for the Swedish National Heritage Board. This is one of the few publicly recognized monuments to alleged UFO landings anywhere in Europe. And the municipality, they maintain support of the site. It's a tourist attraction and a point of curiosity. So let's stop there briefly and kind of talk about this sort of event. And, let me get your guys' thoughts on this thing, because honestly, I have not heard of anybody coming forward. This is the only case that I know of where somebody said, I attribute all my success to an extraterrestrial intelligence. Go ahead, Deej. You've got something to say about that.
I'm going to thread a needle here. Again, this is going to tie in having a dream and your dream being an inspiration for something that became very successful, as well as the religious aspect and everything that we talked about a little bit earlier. And again, we're going back prehistory of this show. As like I said, we've been right around World War II era. This goes back to the early 1700s. Italian composer and violinist Giuseppe Tartini. He was around from 1692 to 1770. Said he had a dream where he met the devil. And in this dream, the devil played this amazing violin piece. And when he woke up from the dream, he immediately sat down and started writing this violin piece, trying to copy this. And he couldn't replicate it the way it was in the dream. Piece was I've got it written down here, the Devil's Trill Sonata that he wrote in the early 1700s. And again, it went on to become very successful for him. It was one of his more famous pieces. And again, taking inspiration from a dream like that. I'm not saying that there was an alien interaction here, but this is something that I think maybe we should look at later on down the road if there are instances of this where people are having dreams or dreams were influenced by something that they've seen in the natural world. And I just find that fascinating because these can't be the only two isolated incidents of this.
Oh, I think you're probably right. You know, the whole concept of lucid dreaming is a real phenomenon that people talk about. James's incident was kind of a lucid dream. And I got to imagine there's stuff where you dream about entities or beings or something in that spiritual realm that maybe get inspiration. I mean, I think anybody who's played an instrument or been a musician at any point, you will sometimes dream about music and say, I've never heard that. When you wake up, it's kind of in your head a little bit, but it's like, I've never heard that before.
Well, and then you
Where
think
did that
about
come
if
from?
you dreamt of the devil, the average human depiction of the devil is very horrifying. While the average human depiction of what an alien might be could be equally as horrifying, depending on what they look
Yes.
like. So it's very possible that there's a thread here between what we thought may have been the devil and could very well have been something otherworldly.
What if I told you that I guess I probably dream, but I don't remember dreaming ever?
I rarely do.
Never.
I rarely
Never.
remember
Yeah,
my dreams.
Never. I wake up, I go to bed, and when I wake up, I was just sleeping. There's nothing.
I think I'm with you guys. I remember aspects of dreams sometimes, you know, but most of the time it's just like I'm with you. I'm like, I know I dreamt about something. I damned if I know what it was. You know, I wish my wife had that. Her dreams are horrifying to her. And
Tina's are
you know,
very
she
lucid.
rarely has she rarely has a dream that you could say that was warm and fuzzy and pleasant. And I feel like shit for her because like I can't imagine enduring that sort of thing. I mean, sleep should be a place of respite for you, not Nightmare on fucking Elm Street. And her dreams are like, you know, that sort of Freddy Krueger-ish. You know, she's not getting diced up in that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think you're right, DJ. There's got to be more examples of just people who have dreamt or gotten inspiration from a dream or a being or something in a dream and translated that into real world success. Carlsson and the guy you're talking about can't be the only ones. But going back to Carlsson, it's a unique aspect of things because he does get Swedish ufologist Klaus Svan. That one I think I might have actually pronounced right, honey. They co-authored a book in '95 with Carlsson called Meeting in the Glade. And they did all sorts of extensive interviews and research. Svan concluded that while Carlsson strongly believed in his story, he did not find conclusive proof that the event happened as described. Well, how the hell really could you? That sort of thing. You know, good luck. You could find impressions in the ground and that sort of thing. Historian Dick Harrison characterized Carlsson, his narrative as alleged but not proven. But and here's the part in the history and analysis documents where I start to do things. And this is like everybody, I've talked about this before, that the history and analysis documents, they're a collaborative effort between myself and ChatGPT. Tony knows that. DJ knows that. So here's where I start directing ChatGPT to look at some different stuff here. And because it's just giving me the basic stuff. And I'm like, okay, but what about this?
I just want to encourage people that listen or watch the YouTube version to, and I know Dave has been providing these synopses on the attitudeofaggression.com, correct?
Yes.
To go with the shows.
Yep.
Like, I encourage you to like follow along with these are so well done by you, Dave. I just gotta point that out. It's well done.
It's very well
excellent.
curated.
Thank you very much. Oh, and there's a lot of sources and things that I could put in the document, but because this is such a mishmash, it's like, look, you know, ChatGPT and me are pulling a lot of this stuff from Wikipedia and all sorts of different places on the net, but the chronology of events are just how it's put together. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, I wanted to ask, and what I asked ChatGPT was like, Ängelholm, Sweden, is this anywhere in the proximity of where the ghost rockets took place? And it came back and said, yes, that is accurate. So there is a geographic proximity to the ghost rocket hotspots because Carlsson's sighting occurred in Ängelholm, town in southern Sweden near the coast of Kattegat. The ghost rocket wave had its highest concentration in central and southern Sweden. Numerous reports of flying missile-like objects, many of which were reported in July to August of 1946, just weeks after This incident happens in May of 1946. Now, this one I almost think I can pronounce right because we talked about it last time. The famous Lake Komjarv crash, which we talked about in the last episode. That is the most famous of the ghost rocket incidents. Investigated by the Swedish military, found the lake bed disturbed, but could not find any debris. This is northeast of Stockholm in central Sweden, still within the broader region of the mass sighting. So, while Ängelholm is slightly south of the densest area of the ghost rocket cluster, it is absolutely, ChatGPT telling me, within the broader regional activity zone during the time of the 1946 sightings. So Carlsson's encounter is one of the earliest landing case reports that we get during this whole ghost rocket wave. Now, the ghost rockets we talked about, and the reason why we talked about that first is that kind of began in February of 46. This incident happens in May. He has his incident. Then all of a sudden, May through June, you get this big increase in the ghost rockets across Sweden. July 9th, you have the Lake Komjarv crash. August 9th and 11th, you have the peak sightings that just coincide with the Perseid meteor shower. And in the fall of 46, the reports begin to fade. So was the Carlsson event possibly the very beginning? Did it kick off the ghost rocket flap? I don't know, but Deej, I know you weren't here for the ghost rocket discussion, but where there's smoke, there's probably some fire here. And this event happens right at the beginning of this whole big explosive wave of UFO activity in this exact same region.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think there's a causality in here somewhere, and that whole region of the world, that your area is very condensed. So it very makes perfect sense that, yeah, this incident was very close to the ghost rockets and everything around there. I just find the time period to be fascinating. Again, we're going back to the tail end of World War II and just this uptick in this type of phenomenon. And again, we beg the question, and we've done this in earlier episodes, is this just human paranoia, or is this actually something, given the mindset of the world coming out of World War II, increased paranoia, increased fear, or is this something more real?
Yeah, Tony, you got any thoughts on this seeming connection between these events that, was Carlsson's event just part of the larger ghost rocket phase? Or was his event what really kicked this thing into overdrive? Because these beings are like shit, because not most of the ghost rockets were cigar shaped and they're moving pretty fast, but not all of them, and there's some radar tracking of slower moving objects that were confirmed. So you can't just sit there and say, well, this ship doesn't look anything like what most of the ghost rockets look like. It can't be the same thing. Still, all this stuff happening in close proximity to the dropping of the nuclear bombs, the end of World War II in Europe and then in Japan, and then all this stuff happening in an area of the world that borders the Soviet Union, where there's not a lot of activity going on right now. I mean, a place that was relatively, not completely obliterated by the war, but it wasn't in great shape either. But what do you think, man?
It's interesting. I mean, the time sends off a ton of pings, if we want to label it that way, to outside of our atmosphere. Yeah, probably. I mean, regardless of whether or not they're related, they are, because they came here almost at the exact same expanse of time. So it has to be some correlation between the two, whether or not they're, strictly related, or shit, how many different extraterrestrial races are trying to get here then?
We don't know. I mean, if you listen to Eric Davis, there's at least 4 different types here. We got the I call them the ABBA aliens, the Nordic guys, the tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, and tight spandex pants, the Nordic guys. You've got the reptilians, you've got the insectoids, and we've got the grays. That's at least 4. There could be more, but I don't know. But the other thing I found interesting about this was because when I read the description of what Carlsson described, in my mind, it jarred something, and this because I'm almost done. Almost done reading that book on Trinity that I started right before we did the Trinity episode. And in the back half of that, Jacques Vallée spends a lot of time talking about the Socorro incident involving Lonnie Zamora, the New Mexico police officer who came upon a scene that looked a lot like this. So I wanted to ask ChatGPT, hey, this thing he's describing, is this similar to what Lonnie Zamora and Socorro is down the line? We're going to get into a very detailed discussion about Socorro because it is one of the most credible UAP sightings that there is. And he said, ChatGPT says, yeah, there's a lot of similarities between this disc or saucer shaped, in New Mexico was an oval or egg-shaped craft, white aluminum, that sort of thing, mounted on legs or landing gear. That's the same thing. You've got humanoid occupants in white uniforms observed outside around the craft. That absolutely happened in New Mexico as well. So to me, because, and I granted these are almost 20 years apart, but to me, I'm like looking at those two events saying, boy, those are awfully similar to each other. And then you've got these other events, and there's a document that you can download on the Attitude of Aggression website, goes through all the similarities between Carlson's and Zamora's. Landed craft, okay. Disc oval shape, you've got Carlson's is a disc, Zamora's was an oval or egg. Okay. Landing legs, yes. Humanoid figures in white, yes. Markings left on the ground. And Carlson's got a ring and depression. In New Mexico, we've got burn marks, landing gear prints, silent or near silent. Yes, except Lonnie said that when the ship took off, if you followed, when we get to Socorro, we'll talk about it in much more detail because it is a really interesting case. When the ship took off in New Mexico in 64, it made a roaring sound when it took off, and then it just went fucking silent and just shot off at ridiculous speed. I don't know of anything that can do that. It's like, okay, that's very interesting. But we took it a step further. You've got remote locations involved. And I asked it, how about some other similar cases, and there's lots of them. Similar sort of things. You got the Flatwoods Monster Incident in Braxton County, West Virginia, September 12, 1952. Witnesses described tall humanoid-like entity wearing a mechanical or metallic suit. Okay. Maybe not a white-suited occupant in the classical sense, but you got the metallic suit. You've got the Troncos case in Argentina in October of 63. White-robed humanoid figures, about 1.5 meters tall, seen outside the craft. Okay. This kind of matching with Carlsson and Zamora. Valençol in France in 1965 is a very well-known case. And you've got very similar stuff. Maurice Massé saw the same thing. Two small humanoids in tight-fitting white suits. Like, what is this? What is going on with these? It's like, are just like skinny jeans with NHI or something like that? I don't know. You got Cusack, also in France in August of 67. This week got 4 small humanoids in shiny white suits. You've got Reyes de Viega in Spain in October of 74. 2 humanoid figures in white one-piece suits seen near the craft. Multiple witnesses, including, again, a police officer. The Draguignan incident in France in 1976. Again, witnesses described humanoid in white, tight-fitting suit collecting samples or investigating the surroundings. So the thing that's common through all these events are these are all grounded or landed craft. White or silver suits involved are the occupants. Small humanoid statures usually. Objects or devices being used. Physical ground states. Altered mental states or dream, especially with Carlsson and Massé in the Valençol incident. And all of these are categorized, and James talked about the classification for close encounters in the last episode. These are all close encounters of the third kind. All of them. Because they all involve the sighting of the occupants of these craft. And, it's anybody who's seen the movie gets an idea of what close encounters of the third kind are, but these are them in the real world. So, ultimately, there's a lot of reasons that there's the strength of the claim and the memorial. There's weaknesses involved as well. ChatGPT's ultimate take on this before we get into kind of the legit or bullshit part of this. Carlson's story is very intriguing because it's one of these, like DJ saying, it's one of the rare UFO entrepreneur success stories that we see where something has influenced somebody to develop something that makes a lot of money. From a strictly evidentiary or scientific standard, okay, there's not much there. There's the memorial. There's some ground indentations that were, recorded many, many, many years later. But it's a lot of anecdotal evidence. Sure, like most of this stuff is. It is a cultural specimen because this is how does belief, memory, dreams, all of this stuff interweave with UFO lore, and then that translates into a lucrative business success. So before we get into the legit or bullshit part, Tony, let me go to you first. So many similarities between this event and other events that we haven't talked about yet that we will, most of them later. The fact that these craft are seen all over the world, and all these close encounters of the third kind events with usually small-ish humanoid figures in white suits all doing something. I mean, we just rattled off, 8, 9 of these sort of events that are all very similar to each other?
A lot of smoke. Lots
A lot of smoke.
similarities are the thing that make you want to believe more, right? Make you want to dig deeper. Because without that, if you had A saying this and B saying that and C completely opposite from A and B, it would just lead to people going, what a bunch of bullshit. What did he have to gain in the 70s to coming out and saying this? Like, nothing.
He was already successful.
Yes.
He's already a millionaire. So
Yes.
why?
So either
why
he
would
became delusional or we're going to get to legit or bullshit.
That's a really good point because, a lot of the stuff that people say or people do this for financial gain. Although most people who report on UFOs don't exactly cash in like they won Mega Millions or something like that. This guy was already a success. So he already had all the money. He didn't need to do this for the fame. He didn't need to pull it off for a hoax.
Or he's
all these
fucking
years
with everybody.
Later, could be. But why? Again, you go back to what's the motivation for that? Why fuck with somebody? You've already accomplished so much. What do you hope to gain by perpetuating this hoax on humanity? It just seems like there's no motive for that. It's not a murder case, but you're looking for motive. I don't see it. Deej, do you see it? What are your thoughts on all this stuff?
There's no motivation for gain here, and this is why I'm tending to lean towards, believing this one. And when you look at the incidents, the 8 incidents that you described, and the similarities in the stories, this is seen throughout the history of UFO and UAP phenomenon. People talk about abductions and people who have never met in time periods where we didn't have the internet. We couldn't just have something and then somebody see it 10,000 miles away and decide, hey, you know what, that happened to me too. No, these are unrelated people in separate parts of the world having very similar experiences, like I said, with their abductions, and they describe their abductors very similarly. In this case, is the white suits, the humanoid stature. There's not some of them that are 8 feet tall and some of them that are 3 feet tall. There seems to be a median type of size that we've settled on. I'm leaning towards this being, a real thing and something that I think needs to be explored more, because there's a common thread here. And the common thread is not people's wild imagination that just happens to be coincidence.
Yeah, whatever the case is, it is pretty clear that Mr. Carlsson believed this happened. And there's no doubt about that. And everybody who investigated this says, yeah, he really believes this stuff happened. He's attributing his success. And I mean, we all know we have very realistic dreams. And maybe that's all this was. Maybe that's all it was just a very realistic dream about something he couldn't explain, that he says, this is an alien. But on the other hand, he's also saying that the dream was triggered by what he'd witnessed while he was awake. So that kind of undercuts that whole notion that, it was just a dream, some vivid dream. Yes, but it was based on something you observed previously, which adds a lot of credibility.
He almost calls the dreams communication, though, right?
Yes.
It's more or less not him dreaming. This beings have figured out how to communicate with you more easily.
Subconsciously.
Hey, hold on. You're going to be there for a while, right? And you're not going anywhere. Let me just get in there then.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but that's a really good point, because most people, anybody doing any of the consciousness stuff, like what James was talking about on the last episode, or a lot of that stuff is all everything he got from the UFOs, from the experience he got. Tony, you listen to it. DJ will listen to it, but the voice in his head telling him to come outside, and he goes outside and sees this thing right there. That was all telepathic. And if you listen to James tell the story on other shows, it's not just we all have thoughts in our heads, right? We all have that, the inner monologue, the things in your head. This is different than that. This is a voice in your head that's clearly communicating, come outside.
It's telepathy, right?
It is. And if
It'd
the
be like, while
phenomenon,
we're sitting here and you're talking, I'm silently telling DJ something. You know,
yeah,
No, I
DJ's
will
just,
not ask Dave to take his pants off, Tunny.
I'm not. I don't have the ability to
yeah,
do that, DJ. I don't know where your weird fetishes come
just,
from, but
Okay.
that's
you know,
fine.
hey,
We don't all have to free ball at the same time, buddy.
they call me Highlander for a reason because there can be only one. No, but I mean, communicating on that deeper level, that telepathic level, that subconscious level, that makes all the sense in the world. So, yeah, it's a fascinating. That's why I call this a curious case of Mr. Carlsson here, and that's what this episode is going to be called. But yeah, let's go with the legit or bullshit side of things and try and determine what we think. I mean, I'll go first on this. I think Tunney really kind of brought it home for me that if there was any doubt, if you were on the fence about whether this is legit or bullshit, I don't think there was any doubt that Carlson saw or thinks he saw what he saw. But I think the fact that there is such a congruence and similarity of these events around the world with so many similarities to them between the craft, between the occupants, between the physical trace evidence, and even if the quartz samples that he gave to the people to research in this came out as totally mundane, fine, whatever. But yeah, the big thing for me is like what Tunney said. He had absolutely nothing to gain by coming out 24 years later and saying, hey, the reason I'm so damn successful is because I saw a UFO and they told me how to do this. I don't see why you would subject yourself to that sort of stigma, that sort of ridicule, unless there is some reality to it. And it could just be all in his head and he dreamt the whole thing or thought the whole thing. But the fact that, yeah, he's already successful. There is no secondary gain coming from this, and just tying it all in, everything going on in that area, tied it to the ghost rockets, tied it to stuff that happened after that many years later, similar events. Tunney's the big thing about what would be the motivation to make this bullshit up. I'm going legit on this one, guys. I think Mr. Carlson had some sort of, whether you want to call it divine intervention, alien intervention, an epiphany, subconscious telepathic epiphany. I don't know. But I think this is a legit event. Deej, I'll go to you, man.
For all the reasons you laid out, Dave, I don't even need to copy your homework here. I agree. The similarities between all the events, and again, going back to historically in these types of things with people that are not interconnected, and just my own personal beliefs, this type of stuff. And as a kid, when I first started reading about UFOs and abductions, because I was very interested in abductions, the idea that the stories are very similar to people who have never met, I think this is legit. I think he saw something. I think it influenced him. I think I 100% believe he dreamt what he dreamt and it helped influence his success in life. And something triggered that. Yeah, absolutely. It's legit.
Honey, I've not seen your government conspiracy pen this entire episode. So, I mean,
Well, we've been kind of living outside of the United States government here on this episode,
That's
so
true.
not to say
That's
that
true.
it's not a great government. Anyway, I would say I lean more legit on this than any other topic we've done, legit or bullshit. And you kind of summed up DJ and I's main point there, and yeah, what's the gain? There's a lot of legitimacy to the timeline. So when you put that all together, you tend to lean more towards the legit side.
Yeah, I mean, all these people seeing similar stuff around the world. I mean, yeah, there's a cluster of people in France. There's some people in Spain and that sort of thing. I get all that, but yeah, it's just everywhere. New Mexico over here and Valençol, France, and all these Argentina. So it's all over the world. They're seeing this, but that's a unanimous legit. I think ChatGPT was a little bit less or a little bit more skeptical about this one, just because it can't put its finger on anything. But I think Tunney made the best point of anybody on this episode, saying, what did he have to gain at this point in his life to come out and say, this is why I'm so fucking filthy rich? It's like,
Hey, by the way,
that's true.
assholes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is why I'm so fucking great, and that sort of thing. Good stuff all the way around, guys. Thank you for another excellent edition of Unidentified History. On the next episode, we're going to do what I'm calling the Rob special, because Rob was the one who suggested this on the last episode, Tunney. It does not fit in the chronology anywhere, but it is still one of the most, it's a wild event to look at. DJ will appreciate this one. We are going to go back to 1908 and look at the Tunguska event. They talked about it in Ghostbusters, and that sort of thing. A whole forest gets leveled.
Well, Rob better have
Not
his
sure
ass.
why.
Rob better have.
Yeah, Rob better have his ass here. It's his idea. So we are going to look at Tunguska on the next episode. After that one, then we go into 1947. And we're going to talk about the Kenneth Arnold event. On that episode, if everything holds according to plan, Dan Zetterstrom will come on the show with us. Dan has if you've watched Ancient Aliens, you've seen Dan. He's been on Ancient Aliens a few times. He's done some stuff. He's done a couple of documentaries. He did a documentary with Vinnie Adams from Disclosure Team, Ashley Cowie down in Colombia. They went down to Colombia to do phenomenology, which I'd urge anybody watch that. It's a 7-part series on YouTube. Each episode's about 20 minutes. It's fucking so good because these guys, they're all believers, but they're like enthusiastic but skeptical the whole time. Like they debunk a lot of stuff that's going on. The last episode, though, has some of the most compelling UAP footage that I've seen so far. I mean, and it's an orb, yes, but you got to see it. And I sent a message to the guys, and they say, I just finished it. It's really good. So Dan, he sent me a DM back because I was like, I hope you guys get to do a season 2. Dan said there is a season 2. He said you just can't find it online, but I'll send you a link to it. So I'm going to go check out season 2. It's really good. Dan, of course, he's just started his own podcast. I mean, he's done these before. He's been on that UFO podcast with Andy a lot of times. But Dan just started the What It Means to Be Human show. They're 5 episodes in. It's really good. Should check that out as well. So I'm hoping Dan will come on to talk to us about the granddaddy of all the sightings, the Kenneth Arnold sighting that started the whole flying saucer, where we got the term from, Kenneth Arnold. So it is as big an event. And just generally in 1947, I'm hoping to get Dan. I'm hoping Andy will come on from that UFO podcast to talk about Roswell, which is chapter 1 in his book. We just got Ryan Sprague at Somewhere in the Skies, did an interview with David Marler, who had a audio recording from Jesse Marcel, who was, of course, the first witness at Roswell, who said there was no impact crater in the ground. Nothing hit the ground. Something disintegrated in air, and all the debris was in the field, which I'd heard this before. So for me, it wasn't this massive revelation. But people have lost their minds about this. It redefines Roswell. I'm like, I already heard this before. It's like, which is why when the guy was posting the stuff about the National Archives showing pictures of gouges in the ground and wrecked debris and alien bodies, I'm like, I don't think so, man. I didn't think there was any sort of ground impact crater. Now, of course, that could be because there's multiple crash sites if you believe some of that stuff. Anyway, 1947 is coming. I've told these guys it is the attitude era of ufology. There is no bigger year in ufology than 1947. None. As Kenneth Arnold, Roswell, you got the Flight 105, or I think it's Flight 105, the Rhodes photographs in Rhode Island. Maury Island happens during this time frame. It's a wild year in ufology, and that's coming up, but not till we explore Tunguska. And that should be fun just to see, was it an airburst asteroid? I don't know. Probably, but we're going to find out what went off in the Siberian forest in 1908. But until then, guys, thank you so much for being a part of Unidentified History. Great to get back to one of our deep dive historical episodes like this. Before we cut out of here, let's go around the horn, get some contacts information, social media information for the people. DJ, where can people check you out at when they're looking for you on social media, or if they want beer tips, they can message you for beer tips, right?
I'll be happy to share my beard tips with you. I may even do an episode of my own one day talking about beard care. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at The Mindless Pod. You can hear myself, Rob, and Jason talk all things WWE and wrestling on the Mindless Wrestling Podcast every Saturday on the Chairshot Radio Network. You can hear us there. You can hear us on thechairshot.com. You can hear us on all your favorite podcasting platforms. We are also on YouTube. I'm trying to build up the YouTube channel a little bit more. I just haven't had a whole lot of time to get to do that. But again, that is the Mindless Wrestling Podcast.
I'm hoping I motivate you. in some form
You
or
have.
fashion.
You have.
So,
Believe it or not, you have.
I'm a motivational person, Tunney. I've waited my whole life for this. Tunney, where can people check you out on social media, man?
You can find me on every social media platform at PC Tunney, but if you want to get my attention, find me on X, follow me, DM me, I'll get back to you. But yeah, Chairshot Radio Network, all your favorite streaming platforms, thechairshot.com, attitudeofaggression.com. We're making things happen. Like with those sites and those networks, sports entertainment and sports entertainment, right? And now
Whatever this is.
and
Whatever this
now like and then unidentified history too, which is, I think it probably falls outside of that. I was going to throw it in the entertainment category, but it's not. It's kind of like it's a mixture of yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like history entertainment, I guess.
It's
Like
life.
sports entertainment, it's history entertainment. It's life. Yeah. On my end, you can follow me on X and on Blue Sky at Attitude Ag. That is at Attitude AGG. Make sure you go to the website, www.attitudeofaggression.com. I've been revamping the site. I got rid of that green header, Tunney, that didn't make any sense with the scheme of the site. So now it looks a little bit better. I kept looking at it saying, what the fuck is this? Why haven't I changed this in years?
Site looks great, guys. If you're just listening to the shows somewhere, go to the site, actually. Not just for the synopses for these shows, but every other show that's on there. There's just a whole bunch of stuff going on. We're about to jump off and talk some more Game of Thrones. Obviously, the Big Five project. I couldn't be prouder of what we're doing for attitudeofaggression.com.
It's fun. It's fun. Like Tony says, go to attitudeofaggression.com. All the historical analysis documents are attached to the unidentified history documents. You can check me out on Facebook, facebook.com/attitudeofaggression, and at Attitude of Aggression, all one word, on Instagram and Threads. And let me just say, if you like what you're doing, or what we're doing, I'm sure you like what you're doing, but if you like what we're doing here on this show, we are on Apple. We're now officially on Spotify. They haven't taken down any of my stuff yet, Tony, which I'm like, oh, they put up everything from Attitude of Aggression. Oh, shit. But nobody said anything yet. Yeah, I know. It's like, we'll see how long that lasts. Yeah, we're done.
That's okay. The aliens are coming. We don't have long.
We don't have to worry about it. But we're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify now officially. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review. It lets me, it lets Tunney, it lets DJ, it lets all of us involved know that, hey, we're doing something right. And we greatly appreciate that. Of course, helps the algorithm. And yes, on YouTube, the interview with James Iandoli was the very first full video episode ever done on Attitude of Aggression, and more of that is coming down the pike. Yes, sir.
This is twofold in what I'm about to do, but I feel like there's a strong possibility. I've had the light bulb go off that we need to get an unidentified history T-shirt on prowrestlingtees.com/thechairshot.
Let's do it. We got the logo. We
got it. All right, I'm going to work on that. I'm going to need you to send me that logo. We'll try and make that happen shortly. And when it does, we'll let you all know on one of the next couple episodes when you can get your T-shirts. Look at the logos right behind you, right, Dave?
The grift has begun, guys. We are officially grifting our asses off here so we can get criticized by all the skeptics and know they're going to make fun of us. Shit, if that ever happens. Ooh. But until next time, where we're going to get together and talk about the Tunguska event, that's going to do it for this episode of Unidentified History. Guys, keep looking to the skies. Keep looking in the seas. We will catch you next time for more Unidentified History. So long, everyone. Hey, guys, Dave here. Wanted to give a quick update on a breaking news item that happened within the last couple days and in between the time that we recorded this episode on Gösta, Carlsson, and now. Big news, Age of Disclosure, the documentary that has been talked about for so long, that was kind of the, when we first started Unidentified History, we had thought, hey, let's wait until Age of Disclosure comes out and launch the show then, because that seemed to be like, okay, that'd be a perfect kind of entry point to the show and give us something good to talk about. And of course, anybody who's been following this topic knows that things did not go well on that front, that the Age of Disclosure documentary, which was shown at South by Southwest back in March, has been delayed numerous times. Well, I wouldn't even say delayed numerous times. It just never came out. And there's been all sorts of rumors as to what was going on. Rumors that Dan Farrow, who was the director of the movie or the documentary, was trying to get the best price for it, was trying to get it a theatrical run to make it eligible for award season. There's rumors that he and Lou Elizondo had a falling out, that there was a lawsuit involved, that was delaying things. I don't know the truth. I don't think any of us really do, but the big news is that it is now official that it is coming out on November 21st to Amazon Prime. And it is going to have a limited theatrical run in, as I understand it, New York, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles. So that's big news that this documentary that has been touted and praised by so many is finally going to be released to the public, and we're all going to get a chance to see it. So a lot of us are very excited about that. Now, there are multiple caveats to the release of this. This is all indications that this is going to be self-released by a company that Dan Farah himself created like a month ago, which indicates that Amazon Prime did not actually buy this documentary, that Dan Farah has made the choice to self-distribute it on Amazon Prime, which, that could be a blessing and a curse, of course. The hardcore skeptics are out there saying, oh, no one would buy this thing because it's so full of shit. No, I don't know if that's the case, or, there could be lots of reasons. There could be Dan just didn't get the price that he wanted and has decided to go this route. Lots of people Amazon is a haven for self-publishing, self-promoting. There's lots of people who self-publish their books on Amazon. I'm one of them. I've done pretty well on Amazon with my own stuff. So that's not necessarily a reflection on the quality of the documentary. There could be many, many, many reasons involved as to why Age of Disclosure is going to Amazon Prime as a self-distributed release. Also, I've heard, I think I was listening to Down to Earth with Christian Harloff the other day. He was saying that he really hopes that this will just be part and parcel of the Amazon Prime membership. I doubt it. I think there's going to be a charge associated with this documentary. I don't think Dan is going to want to take a complete loss on this thing. He may not get all the money that he thought he was going to get from it, but he's going to want to make something back. How much this is going to cost on Amazon Prime, if anything, I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating and spitballing and that sort of thing for you guys, but I imagine it's going to cost something. There's going to be some additional costs associated with it, so don't be surprised about that. But it's big news because a lot of us have been wanting to see this thing. It is supposedly very influential. It's getting a lot of mainstream buzz. Pat McAfee, who we all know, anybody who's followed Attitude of Aggression knows that Pat obviously very heavily involved with WWE, very heavily involved with ESPN. Those are huge accounts. I think Joe Mergia, UFO Joe, had made the comment that Pat had 3.3 million followers, and I replied, he does. But he's tied into WWE with 14.5 million, and ESPN is like 52, 53 million followers. So for Pat to repost that with a positive comment about that, that's big. Because even if this thing is released for free on Amazon Prime, if it gets people talking, and gets people asking questions, and gets the right people asking questions, and it has some mainstream appeal to it, and gets that out there, that's a big deal for this whole process. So we'll see what happens with this thing, but it's a big deal. Representative Anna Paulina Luna made the indication or intimation that this has been air quoting people, don't know who that is, have been attempting to block this for a long time. Don't know. She can be a little bit prone to hyperbole at times. I applaud her on some respects for her continuing to push this narrative and to fight the good fight to get disclosure out there. She's a little inconsistent. I'll just leave it there. So we'll see what happens. But big news coming up. Global Disclosure Day coming up tomorrow as I'm recording this thing. So I'll be checking that out as well. So we'll be getting back to you guys real soon. I gave you guys contact information in the episode itself. The only thing I'll add is if you are watching this on YouTube, and I know this is only the second video we've ever really done on YouTube, if you like what we're doing here, like the video, subscribe to the show, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'm trying to improve. I know this is early on in the YouTube thing and I'm trying different things, but I am well aware that, constructive criticism is a good thing. So by all means, let me know what's going on. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoy it. We'll be back soon to cover, and obviously when Age of Disclosure does come out, I don't care if it costs anything or not, I will be buying it. And we'll be talking about it. That's going to do it. We'll catch you guys soon for another edition of Unidentified History later on. you.